Imagine 100 years ago, you had an ancestor who founded a law firm that's still operating in your hometown to this day. Imagine that you come from a lineage of men that voters chose, term after term, generation after generation, to be directly responsible for handling all criminal cases in your district. Imagine that because of all this, you could walk up to any one of your 100,000 closest neighbors, and each of them would know you by your surname. Sounds quite prominent, doesn't it? Sounds like you have all the wealth and power you need to support yourself and your loved ones, pretty much forever. Well, things aren't always what they seem. So today, we're going to visit the low country of South Carolina and explore the lives and families that have been impacted by the various scandals of Richard Alexander Murdaugh and the Murdaugh dynasty. In 1920, after a decade of private practice in his own firm, Randolph Murdaugh became a solicitor for the 14th Circuit Judicial District. He served as solicitor, better known as district attorney in some states, until his death in 1940. At which point the seat was immediately filled by his son, Randolph Murdaugh Jr., who also went by Buster. Buster would serve the same role until his retirement in 1986. From there, his son, Randolph Murdaugh III, took over, also retaining the title for the entirety of his career. Randolph III had 4 children, including Randolph IV, also known as Randy, and Richard Alexander, who went by Alec. Now, neither of these brothers became solicitors because they would both join the family firm, the same one their great-grandfather originally founded pretty much a century ago. At the end of 2021, the firm changed its name to the Parker Law Group. They were previously called PMPED, and as of at least the 1990s, they focus on accidents, personal injury, wrongful death suits, those sort of cases. Alec had finished law school at University of South Carolina in 1994 and joined the family firm not long after that. He would marry Margaret Kennedy Branstetter, also known as Maggie, and have 2 sons by 1999. Their first son, Richard Alexander Murdaugh Jr., who continued the tradition of having Buster as a nickname, would go on to attend Wofford College, a private liberal arts school where he studied in their government and international affairs program, receiving his bachelor's degree in 2018. A junior at the University of South Carolina, Paul loved the wilderness and fishing and hunting, anything involving the outdoors. He would always be down for it. He would literally jump right in. Maggie was also a huge celebrator of life, who enjoyed having drinks with her friends. She loved spending her days at the beach house that they owned on Edisto Island. This was actually just one of multiple homes the Murdaugh family owned. They also had a property in Islandton, known as the Moselle Estate or Moselle Farm. It's a 1,700-acre piece of land where they have a main house, a massive open field, a kennel where they had a bunch of dogs they were raising. If they wanted to fish or hunt, they did that down at the swamp. There's a 2-mile stretch of river there. There was even a landing strip at Moselle for flying small planes in and out. It really did seem like this family had everything and did everything together. No one anticipated what would end up happening next. No one would have guessed that at the end of May 2021, 22-year-old Paul would serve his father a birthday cake for the very last time.
Happy birthday to you. Thank y'all so much. Yay. Thank you, baby.
911, where's your emergency?
This is Alec Murdaugh at 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police and the ambulance immediately. My wife and child just got badly. 4147 Moselle Road.
Stay on the line with me, okay?
Hurry.
Yes, sir. Stay on the line with me, okay?
Moselle Road, I've been up to it now. It's bad. I'm there on the ground out at my kennel.
Do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you hear anything, or did you come home and find them?
No, ma'am. I've been gone. I just came back.
Okay. And was anyone else supposed to be at your house?
No, ma'am.
Is he moving at all, your son?
Nobody. They're not. Neither one of them's moving.
I don't want you to touch them at all, okay? I don't know if you've already touched them, but I don't want you to touch them just in case they can get any kind of evidence, okay?
I already touched them trying to get to see if they were breathing.
In response to a 911 call, agents with the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division arrived at the Moselle farm. Alec was standing near the dog kennels waiting for them. They started questioning him right away.
When did you get home? Right when you called, or did you go to the house first? Where is the house?
I came to the house first. My mom has late stages Alzheimer's, and my dad is in the hospital.
Okay.
I left I don't know what time. I can go back on my phone and tell you the exact times.
Parked on the grass right next to the dog kennels was a black suburban SUV. It was the SUV that Alec had just driven to go to his mother's.
I see quite a few tire tracks in here. Were any of these you going in and out?
No, I came in here and I left one time and I came back.
How did you pull up? You from back there?
I went to the house and they weren't home, which was odd. I tried to call.
Okay.
And then I knew they had been down here before I left to go to my mom's.
Okay.
And so that is loaded.
Okay.
You might want to unload it. But I mean...
Is this the only firearm with you? This is the only one, or is there any more in the truck?
I believe that's it.
You think that's the only one? When was the last time you were here with them? Or talked to them or anything like that?
It was earlier tonight. I don't know the exact time, but
Okay.
I left. I was probably gone an hour and a half from my mom's, and I saw them about 45 minutes before that.
Okay.
I rode around with Paul for 2 hours this afternoon in the pickup truck.
That's your son, Paul? Okay.
Somebody going to check him?
Yes, sir. They've already checked them.
They did check him?
Yes, sir.
This is official that they're dead?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
Paul was found lying in the doorway of the dog feed room right next to the dog cages. He had taken a shot to the shoulder and chest area, which investigators said he could have survived. But a second bullet from an upward trajectory went through his head so severely that his brain matter was exposed when they found his body. Maggie was about 2 yards away and had suffered rounds in the abdomen and leg and at least 2 to the head. Now, the Murdaughs did own and keep many firearms on this property. Authorities were never able to recover or find the precise weapons, but early on in the investigation, they established that it was indeed family guns that were responsible for each killing. Weapons that the Murdaughs had owned and recently used. They took the bullets and shell casings found around the bodies and compared those to bullets and casings scattered around Moselle estate, outside the house, at the hunting areas, and even across the street where there was a shooting range. Based on these comparisons, they determined that Paul was gunned down by one of the family's 12-gauge shotguns, a Benelli Super Black Eagle, whereas Maggie was hit from one of the Murdaugh's S&B 147 grain 300 blackout rifles. Investigators said the wounds didn't appear to be defensive, meaning there wasn't a struggle and they weren't trying to block any attacks during their final moment. Also, the shots came in at close range. That means when Maggie and Paul Murdaugh went down, their assailant was standing within their immediate vicinity, and it wasn't a situation where they had been anticipating any danger or harm. 2 weeks later, there were still no witnesses or suspects announced, but the Law Enforcement Division made a surprising statement, confirming that based on revelations from this murder investigation, they were going to revisit another case from several years back. This would be the first of 3 separate fatal incidents that would be connected or reconnected back to the Murdaugh family. In other words, the Murdaughs were somehow involved with 3 additional fatalities in addition to Maggie and Paul that go back up to 6 years prior.
Hampton County 911, where's your emergency?
Hello, I just going down the Crocketville Road, and I see somebody laying out.
And is it in the road or on the side of the road?
In the road.
Oh, in the road.
In the early hours of July 8, 2015, a driver spotted someone lying on the middle of the road in Hampton County. It was the body of Stephen Smith. Not far away, his car was located on the side of the road, apparently abandoned. Even the gas cap was left unscrewed. Stephen Smith suffered severe trauma to the head. That was the main source of injury and what likely killed him. Although there was no trail of blood on the road, no skid marks, the shoes he was wearing were pretty loose as far as the fit, but they were both still on his feet when his body was found. The road had no signs of debris from bumpers or headlights or any pieces of a vehicle left behind. Because of all this, the primary investigators wrote that Stephen Smith was not hit by a car, that an auto-related collision was not the cause of the damage that he took to his head. Highway patrol troopers had tried to ask the pathologist, Dr. Erin Presnell, about the autopsy she performed because she concluded that Stephen died from a hit and run, that the mirror on a moving car struck and killed him. Trooper Todd Proctor thought this was ridiculous because his team already knew that the head injuries came from some direct attack, like a gunshot wound or he might have been hit with a bat, But Dr. Presnell, she said she wouldn't change her autopsy report, and she wouldn't conduct any further examination based on the Highway Patrol's evidence. And so, as of 2015, the case was closed. Stephen Nicholas Smith was 19 years old when he passed away, a bright future now cut short. He was described by his friends as happy and funny, just carefree without worrying about what others thought of him. There were speculations that Stephen, who was openly gay, may have shared an intimate relationship with Buster Murdaugh. These were the rumors or the takeaway from the fact that Highway Patrol reports, the notes they took when trying to find out about Stephen's background that could explain his death. The Murdaugh names, specifically Buster Murdaugh, kept coming up time and time again. But no one ever followed up or dug deeper into those notes, and the case was closed as a hit and run. Stephen's devastated family didn't believe the autopsy report either, and they were originally stuck with no answers.
Eventually, the leads dried up and the case went cold. That was until the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh in June of 2021. That same month, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division reopened Smith's case based on information they had gathered during that initial murder investigation. What that information is, though, still has yet to be revealed.
You affirm the testimony about to get the court in this trial shall be the truth, so help you God. Yes. Take a seat in the witness stand. State your name again for the record.
How old are you?
I'm 33.
All right. Where do you work?
I work at Beaufort Memorial Hospital.
Okay. And where'd you grow up?
In Hampton.
Who was your mother?
Gloria Satterfield.
Gloria Satterfield?
Yes.
And is Gloria still with us?
She's not.
And when did she pass?
February 26, 2018.
2018?
Yes, sir.
And who did she work for when she passed?
Alex and Maggie Murdaugh.
Okay. And do you know Alec Murdaugh?
I do.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point him out?
Yes, right there.
Come here.
911, where's your emergency?
4147 Moselle Road. My housekeeper has fallen and her head is bleeding. I cannot get her up.
How old is she?
I'm not sure, like 58 maybe. She fell going up the steps, up the brick steps.
Okay, so she outside or inside?
Outside.
How many steps is there?
8.
Is she just not, like, responding appropriately, but she is awake?
Man, she's not responding.
Okay, I've already got them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down, man.
She's cracked her head and there's blood on the concrete and she's bleeding out of her left ear.
Okay, she's bleeding out of her ear.
And out of her head. She's cracked her skull.
Okay, do you guys know who she is?
Yes, she works for us.
Okay, do you know if she's ever had a stroke or anything before?
Man, can you stop asking her these questions?
I already have them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down in any way. These are relevant questions that I have to ask for the ambulance. Do you know what her name is?
Gloria Satterfield.
Okay. How long would you estimate that Gloria had been doing work for you and or your family?
She's been working for our family for close to 20 years, I would estimate. I know she babysat my children when my youngest was an infant, so.
And were you able to speak with Gloria before she was taken away in the ambulance?
I was.
Okay. Did you ask her what happened?
She indicated that the dogs had caused her to fall.
Okay. So there was no witness to the chain of events?
To the fall itself?
Right.
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Authorities never challenged the Murdaugh story that their housekeeper fell as a result of the dogs causing her to trip. She spent 3 weeks in intensive care and was unable to respond or communicate, so her loved ones were never able to hear her side of the story as far as how she got injured. No autopsy was ever performed after she passed away on February 26. But to Gloria Satterfield, she wasn't just a housekeeper, and the Murdaughs weren't just her employer. She took pride in her work and considered the Murdaughs to be an extended family. And that's why her sister and both of her sons also entrusted the Murdaughs as if they were their own kin.
After she passed, did you have any conversation with Alec about what to do about it?
I did.
And what was the conversation you had with Alec?
I barely remember, but it's like, let me go after my insurance company for this or whatever, kind of get these medical bills and stuff paid.
Okay. So he said he was going to go after his insurance company?
Yes.
And get medical bills for your mom paid?
Yes.
Did he say he might get any money for you and your brother?
Yes.
Did he say how much that might be?
No.
Did he tell you that they had already gotten a settlement for $505,000?
No.
Did he tell you that they had already gotten a settlement for $3.8 million?
No.
Had he ever told you that there was an umbrella policy for $5 million?
No.
Did you ever get 1 cent from Alec Murdaugh when he was still, before all of this happened?
No.
And it took, after this happening, and it took a legal process for that to happen, is that right?
Yes.
And ultimately, is it your understanding that he confessed judgment to taking money for both of those, is that
Yes.
right? You made a call to him asking the status of this case. And what month was that in?
I believe the last time I talked to him was in June of 21.
June of 21?
Yes.
Around the time of the murders?
Yes.
This is your wife and son?
And son.
Okay. This is the firearm you brought from inside the house?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I went and got. This is a long story. My son was in a boat wreck a few months back. He's been getting threats. Most of it's been benign stuff we didn't take serious.
Okay.
You know, he's been getting like punched. I know that's somebody. I know that's what it is. What comes to my mind is my son Paul was in a boat wreck a couple years ago, and there's been a lot of negative publicity about that, and there's been a lot of people online just really vile stuff.
On February 23rd, 2019, Paul Murdaugh went to Parker's convenience store and made a huge purchase of alcohol, allegedly using his older brother Buster's ID and his mother's credit card. This was a successful but illegal purchase because he was still 20 years old at the time. He had taken his family boat and was going out with 5 friends for an evening of food and oyster roasting. They spent hours drinking and partying and riding around on the boat. These 5 friends included Paul's ex-girlfriend, Morgan Dowdy, along with Mallory Beach, her best friend Miley Altman, and their respective boyfriends Anthony Cook and his cousin Connor Cook. By 1 a.m. later that night, Paul wasn't done drinking and decided to stop by the dock in downtown Beaufort, South Carolina. He and Connor went into the bar at a restaurant called Luther's. After they were done, according to Anthony, Miley, and Morgan, a very drunken Paul insisted on getting back into the boat and driving the whole group back home. So they all got in, and with Paul behind the wheel, the boat proceeded south along the river until it got to Archer's Creek Bridge. That's where it collided, and every passenger was flung off the vessel.
There's 6 people on board. They currently have 1 missing. All right, it's in Archer's Creek, which is right there off of Paris Island. There's a bridge on Paris Island. They're underneath it. They crashed into the bridge.
Evidently, the girl was sitting on her boyfriend's lap when they hit the bridge at a high rate of speed, and now she's missing.
Mallory never made her own way back to shore, and in the darkness and with the rushing current of the water, no one was able to see or find her in the immediate vicinity. The 5 survivors were badly injured, intoxicated, and in a panic mode. Anthony Cook in particular did not hold back against Paul.
Bro, you fucking smiling like you're fucking funny. My fucking girlfriend gone, folks. Hope you rot fucking hell.
No matter how angry Anthony was, however, even he had to acknowledge that the person at fault wasn't just anybody, but rather someone that's used to evading accountability, even in such a serious incident such as this one.
You all know Alec Murdaugh?
Oh, yeah, I know that name.
That's his son.
That's so driving the boat?
Good luck.
At the hospital that night, Paul's blood alcohol level was confirmed to be 3 times the legal limit. Meanwhile, all night and into the following days, rescue teams searched the waters for any signs of Mallory. Her family never gave up, but with each day that passed, the hope of finding her alive grew dimmer, until finally, more than a week later, 2 volunteers participating in the search efforts found a body about 5 miles from Archer's Creek Bridge. The person they found was indeed Mallory Beach. Given what she meant to her family and friends, her passing was like a sparkle and flame that had suddenly fizzled. Anthony Cook lost the love of his life, the woman he planned on marrying someday. A very shy Miley Altman first met Mallory in kindergarten when Mallory came up to talk to her. Miley lost her lifelong best friend. At Mallory's funeral, hundreds of people showed up, waiting in line to pay their respects and show their support. 3 months later, Paul Murdaugh would face a judge based on a formal indictment for operating a boat while intoxicated and causing bodily harm, including the fatality of Mallory Beach. He pleaded not guilty, but before ever having to face trial, he too would lose his life.
Any homicide investigation, you start with the closest person and or the person who found the deceased. Both cases, that's Alec. Everybody stays in that investigation until we can get them out. And right now, because of the questions that I have that I need explanations for, I cannot get Alec out.
Okay.
As of August 11th, 2021, there were no arrests and no further public announcements surrounding the killings of Maggie and Paul. David Owen, one of the agents who interviewed Alec on the night of the murders, brought him back into the police station to clarify some details on Alec's version of events.
What do you believe I'm giving you an inconsistent answer?
No, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it when I'm asking you what time you went to the office that day, what time you got home. You know, you said 5 or 5:30. I've got the card readout from the law firm, and it shows you going in at 5:30.
Going in the door?
Yes, sir. And Randy says when he left about 6 o'clock, you were still there. So the times aren't matching up. There is a video on Paul's phone of you and him on the farm that night, and you were in khaki pants and a dress shirt. You were playing with a tree.
At 7:39 p.m. on the evening he was killed, Paul uploaded a video to Snapchat showing his dad in front of a tree. His dad was wearing a different outfit than what he had on when SLED agents arrived on the scene that night.
When I met you that night, you were in shorts and a t-shirt. At what point in that evening did you change clothes?
I'm not sure.
How do you normally load your shotguns?
I mean, I've loaded bird shot, buckshot, slugs, skeet shot.
At the same time? I mean, would you load like a bird shot and a buckshot in the same load?
Not normally.
The shot shells that we recovered that night, one was a turkey load, one was a buckshot.
I understood that.
The shotgun that you had with you that night, there was a bird shot and a buckshot. When Jeff went back the next day, I'm not sure which attorney it was, pointed out that there had been a shotgun laying on the pool table that he had put away, and pointed out the ammunition that was with that, and it was a buckshot and a bird shot. And then the shotgun that we took for potential comparison, it was also loaded with a bird shot and a buckshot. So I have all of these consistent loads along with what's that in the feed room. I call it the feed room at the kennels.
At this point, Alec was a person of interest in the double homicide. He hadn't been charged or arrested yet, but a month later on Labor Day weekend, he would be involved in yet another unexpected and bizarre incident.
Alec Murdaugh turned himself into authorities today at the Hampton County Detention Center. SLED says Murdaugh plotted with another man, Curtis Smith, to kill him so his son, Buster Murdaugh, could collect his $10 million life insurance policy.
Following a deeper investigation, authorities would eventually indict both Alec and Curtis Smith on other financial schemes, as well as narcotics-related offenses, charging them for writing over $2 million in fraudulent checks as part of a conspiracy to buy and sell oxycodone, a prescription painkiller. Meanwhile, right after that Labor Day weekend, Alec also made an announcement of his own, stating he was resigning from his family firm and that he's had a long struggle for which he's going to go into rehab for. Now, his relationship with drugs, that was not something that most people really talked about. Most people either didn't know about it, or his closest associates or family members, the few that were kind of aware of it, even if they were aware, they generally didn't bring it up. It was just a topic that was kind of kept secret. But now, by Alec's own words and actions, it was very much being made public. In fact, even during his own trial, he was bringing up in kind of full detail, sharing his full history of drug dependency. Although it was mainly in the context of kind of rationalizing how and why he started stealing money.
How did you get in such a financial predicament that led you to steal money that wasn't yours?
You know, I'm not quite sure how I let myself get where I got, but it came from, you know, I battled that addiction for so many years. I hurt my knee really bad playing football in college, and I had a knee surgery. And I took hydrocodone, got addicted to that. After a while, I was taking so much of that, I moved on to oxycodone. And, you know, I'm guessing that was around 2000, that transition was around 2008, 9, something like that. And of course, you know, it just escalates.
In any case, he did go to rehab. He was at a drug detox center in Florida before being released from there on October 14th, only to be arrested for the Satterfield family's insurance payout and the millions he stole from that claim. And as of this YouTube episode, that was the last time Alec Murdaugh was a free man. He never spent another night outside a prison cell again. In 2022, South Carolina Supreme Court finally removed him from the bar, and he was formally charged with the homicides of his wife and son. The murder trial began on January 23, 2023. Chief Prosecutor Creighton Waters designed a strategy for establishing motive based on Alec's extensive background as a scam artist. Apparently, he was involved with schemes going back over a decade, even before the 2008 financial crisis. Multiple investments and deals that went bad, and each time it happened, Alec resorted to borrowing money to mitigate his losses. Eventually, borrowing turned into stealing.
Where it depends on new money coming in to pay old investors. And it works. It'll work for a long time as long as you can keep that money coming in. But the second you can't, the second that you're out of options, it crashes and burns. That's how every Ponzi crashes and burns. And that's the situation that fundamentally his finances were like. And that's the situation that was arriving in June of 2021. Okay? Did you know him prior to that?
I did. I've known Alec since I was 16 years old in high school.
Y'all went to high school together?
We did. He's a few years behind me, but we were in the same school. Any work they do providing legal services and any money earned by them belongs to the law firm, not the partner to the law firm, and should run through the law firm's books
It has to go through the law firm's books before it can.
Right.
And then they have to wait till the end of the year for it to be accounted for after paying all the overhead and the salary and the 7.5 and all the rest of it.
That's correct.
If a law partner were to divert fees to himself personally and not send them to the law firm, what would that be?
Stealing?
Stealing.
My discovery of things started coming to a head in May of 21.
In May of 2021?
Yes.
All right. And tell me, what was the first thing that came to your attention?
So one thing that came to attention was a disbursement that the fees were made out and processed to Forge Consulting. And what that meant is that the fees weren't going into our personal account like they should. They weren't going to the firm.
On Monday, June 7th?
Yes.
What year?
21.
June 7th, 2021. What happened?
Went to look for Alec, and when I got upstairs, he was standing outside of his office leaning on a file cabinet. And he looked at me with a pretty dirty look, one I'd not seen before, and said, "What do you need now?" Clearly disgusted with me, which kind of raised my hackles. So I said, "Well, let's go in your office and talk about it." When we went in his office, I told him, I said, "I have reason to believe that you received the Ferris money directly to you, and you need to prove to me that you did not."
Were you able to complete that conversation on the morning of June 7th, 2021?
It was actually the afternoon of June 7th.
Afternoon.
But no, we were not able to complete it during the middle of our conversation. He took a phone call.
Did you go home at the end of work that day?
I did.
Were back home and had a normal evening?
Yes, until about 10:30.
Tell me what happened at 10:30.
I got a call or started getting texts from friends asking if I'd heard if Maggie and Paul had been shot.
Special Agent Peter Radofsky went on the stand to present his analysis of the cell phone and vehicle data on the night of the murders. The data was used to track the location of the defendant and both victims, as well as some of their activities throughout that evening.
And then at 8:44:55, what does it reflect on Paul's phone?
This is when this video was extracted and created through Paul's phone, which shows Alex, Maggie, and, well, you can hear Alex, Maggie, and Paul in the background.
That's the kennel video at 8:44.
That's a kennel video that's been in previous testimony.
Okay. Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth. Bubba.
Hey, Bubba.
That's a guinea.
This is a chicken.
Come here, Bubba.
Come here, Cash.
Come here, Bubba.
Cash. Quit.
You recognize any voices on that video?
The three voices on that video are
the voices of Paul Murdaugh, Maggie Murdaugh, and Alec Murdaugh.
What voices did you recognize on that video?
Paul Murdaugh, Maggie Murdaugh, and Alex Murdaugh.
And how sure are you?
100%.
Recognize the voices on there?
I did.
Did you recognize the voices of your second family?
I did.
And what voices did you hear?
Paul's, Miss Maggie, Miss Alec.
The cell phone analysis also revealed that Rogan Gibson had been texting back and forth with Paul during that hour. And as he would testify, as of 8:49 p.m., Paul stopped reading or replying to his messages.
About 8:50 p.m., and the defendant over there, Alec Murdaugh, took a 12-shade shotgun and shot him in the shoulder, in the chest and the shoulder, with buckshot. Just moments later, he picked up a .300 Blackout, which is a type of ammunition, but an AR-style rifle, and the evidence is going to show that the family had multiple weapons throughout the property. Picked up that .300 Blackout rifle and opened fire on his wife, Maggie, just feet away near some sheds that used to be a hangar. Pow, pow. 2 shots, abdomen in the leg, and took her down.
All right, so now we're at where Alex is leaving for Alameda. This is going to be 9:07:06 p.m.
Maggie's cell phone wasn't recovered until the next afternoon, and it was found outside the estate along Moselle Road. The tracking of the suburban SUV showed that Alec had passed that location and stopped there briefly on his way to his mother's.
At some point on the evening of June 7th of 2021, did you see Alex Murdaugh?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what time it was?
8 o'clock, 8:30, 9:30, somewhere up in there.
Was it unusual to see Alex Murdaugh at that residence that time of night?
Yes, on my shift, yes.
How long did he stay there?
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
About 20 minutes.
Okay.
And this is whose phone?
This is going to be Alex Murdaugh's phone.
Moving towards the direction of Moselle?
That is correct.
10:05:57, he arrives at the kennels, and 10:06:14 is the 911 call. 19 seconds. Is that enough time for a surprised human being to come across that scene, process what they are seeing? The reason why it's so quick is because he knew exactly what scene he was going to find. After the murders happened, was anybody at all concerned about getting the proof for those missing fees after those murders happened at that point in time?
We weren't, because we were concerned about Alec. He wasn't working a whole lot. He was erratic. We knew he was taking pills. We were just worried about his sanity, so we weren't going to go in there and harass him about money.
The prosecution argued that one of the motives for the killings was that it served as a distraction from all the scams he was caught for, and would even help delay or erase some of the lawsuits he was facing, including the $10 million that Mallory Beach's family was demanding. Ultimately, Creighton Waters showed that Alec Murdaugh's erratic behaviors synced up with the timeline of when he was being held accountable for his financial crimes, that there was a direct correlation.
What's the date on that check?
March 10th, 2021. I was printing supporting documents and canceled checks. And as the canceled checks hit the back of my printer, I could see Alec Murdaugh's signature on the back. It would say Alec Murdaugh, and a lot of them were Bank of America. And as everyone came out, I started noticing it more and more, and I just, the sickest feeling you could feel in the world. I knew that he was stealing all this money. We had a partner meeting at Lee Cope's house the morning of Friday, September 3rd.
Is the defendant there?
No. Danny Henderson and Randy Murdaugh went to confront Alec about it.
And what was reported to you after that conversation?
The report was that Alec had admitted that he stole the money and that we were forcing him to resign.
After 5 weeks, the trial concluded on March 2nd, 2023, with a unanimous verdict. The jury found him guilty on both counts of homicide and both counts of firearms possession as part of the commission of that crime. At least 4 of the jurors would go on TV later and describe how they wrapped up with their quick deliberation.
Basically 45 minutes for you guys to come to a decision.
Probably about 45, maybe an hour.
That's really fast.
Yeah, the evidence was clear.
He says it was this piece of video
The kennel video definitely played a major part, and his testimony.
And in the kennel video, that just kind of sealed the deal.
Do you think he should have taken the stand?
No.
What about you, Amy?
No.
He didn't help himself?
No.
No.
If I was him, I don't think I would have, but I think that he believes that he's so convincing that he felt like that was his, last resort.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in prison.
It doesn't matter who your family is. It doesn't matter how much money you have or people think you have. It doesn't matter what you think, how prominent you are. If you do wrong, if you break the law, if you murder, then justice will be done in South Carolina.
New at 5, our Haley Boland is in Hampton County with more on how the Smith family is reacting to the Murdaughs' conviction.
SLED still hasn't officially said what the connection between Stephen Smith's case and the Murdaugh family is. In the Smith family statement released by their attorney, Sandy Smith, Stephen's mom, says the verdict provides much-needed closure to Maggie's and Paul's loved ones, adding, quote, "We know firsthand the agony and frustration of being in the dark about how a family member was killed, and I am thankful the whole story was put before the jury in a public trial. One day, I pray the same happens for my Stephen, but today we should honor and remember the victims of this man who so many people trusted." Mike Himlap, the attorney representing the family, says the verdict in this trial is the result of hard work from SLED and the state's attorney general's office, and that the family is, quote, confident they will continue to exhibit this level of dedication to their investigation into Stephen's murder, no matter where that investigation may lead. Just this past July at Gooding Cemetery, Stephen's family and friends gathered to reveal a new headstone for him 7 years after his death as the investigation into the incident continues.
As for the Satterfield family, attorneys for their estate, Ronnie Richter and Eric Bland, confirmed that they were able to reach settlements with various sources to recover $7.5 million for the Satterfield estate. This is in addition to a confession from Alec Murdaugh that he stole $4.3 million, which led to a court judge approving a settlement of another $4.3 million to the family. Some of those funds have been used to launch a nonprofit organization. Gloria's Gift Foundation is dedicated to helping Hampton County families by providing them with presents and meals during Christmas, and to honoring Gloria's memory with acts of love and charity that truly represent who she was. And one thing to note is that at this point, they actually don't believe Gloria was intentionally killed.
We do not believe she was murdered or intentionally pushed down the stairs. And I say that because she helped raise Paul and Buster, and Paul loved her dearly. If you hear on the Netflix special, Paul carried a picture of Gloria in his wallet.
And for the Beach family, who were in court Friday at Murdaugh's sentencing, they're able to start the healing process.
In early 2023, a circuit judge ended up approving a settlement deal between Mallory Beach's family and the estates of Buster and Maggie Murdaugh. The settlement was for an undisclosed sum, but it would mean Buster and Maggie's liability in the boat crash would be resolved.
Mallory's father had always said, even at the very beginning, that his daughter didn't die in vain, and there was going to be a greater purpose. We might not know what it is yet.
That would leave the estates of Alec and Paul Murdaugh, as well as Parker's convenience store, as the remaining defendants in the lawsuit, since the Beach family still consider them responsible for enabling the illegal alcohol purchase and the drunken boat crash that killed Mallory. And so, this whole saga with the Murdaugh dynasty and the legacy of Richard Alexander Murdaugh's violence and fraud is not quite over yet, but with his convictions for the murders, we've reached one major milestone towards justice and healing. So for now, I hope you've enjoyed my coverage, and I want to thank you for tuning in today, and maybe I'll catch you on the next episode. Have a good day.